and welcome to another Women in Agribusiness webinar. I'm Joy O'Shaughnessy, the Chief Operating Officer of the Agribusiness Division of HighQuest Partners. And we're absolutely delighted that you are joining us today as we focus on our attention to Latin America and speak with three senior leaders in the ag space. Our goal for Women in Agribusiness is always to create a platform to highlight the expertise of women in our sector while simultaneously providing opportunity for our community to stay up to date on the latest trends and what's happening. And we do that through a number of initiatives. Our annual conference, our conferences in Europe and North America, our Ignite Producers Expo, our networking meetups, our Women in Ag Today blog, and our Career Connectors, and lots of other initiatives. And so I really encourage you to subscribe to our mailing list so that you can stay on top of all of these announcements as our events unfold. You really don't want to miss our networking. And there is going to be a link in the chat where you can get to subscribe to Women in Ag, and you can even pick the Latin American topics so that you only get those notifications if you're interested in. But all of the information about all of our initiatives can be found at womeninag.com, and we encourage you to visit us there. The format for the next hour is fairly straightforward. We're going to have our conversation with our panelists, and you can submit questions in the chat to me, and I will read them to the panelists. And if there's time remaining after questions, we're going to break off into smaller groups to network among ourselves. So today's session is what we call an executive profile. We've done these at every single Women in Ag, and it's time to do one here with a Latin American focus. And the goal is to hear from senior women who have experiences to share and wisdom to share with the rest of us that they believe will help others build a successful ag career. So joining us today for what I'm sure will be a robust conversation is Katia George, the Vice President of the Grains Business Unit of Olam, Brazil. Eloisa Mendez, the Operations Manager, who, if I've done my math correctly, has been with Cargill for 18 years. And you feel free to correct me if I'm wrong.
That's
and
right.
Flavia Santos, who's the Director of Continuous Improvement at CHS. Welcome to Women in Agribusiness, ladies.
Thank you, Joy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And so I do want to encourage everyone to turn your cameras off. We're gonna have cameras off for this portion of the webinar, and then we'll turn them on later for the networking. So thanks so much, everybody. So let's get right to it. If you could, please, Flavia, would you start us off by sharing what it was that got you interested in a career in agriculture?
Sure. So for me, agriculture is a very promising market. I grew up going to the countryside in Minas Gerais state in Brazil, where I always had a lot of contact and connection with farms, producers. And when I grew up, I actually got to know more about the ag business per se. And I was delighted to see that it was really a global market where we can make connections around the world. It's a very dynamic market as well. And that we have to make very quick decisions to keep up with the market, which I love. So those are the reasons why I chose to work in the ag business.
Thanks. Eloisa, would you share, please?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me, I grew up in a farm in the country of Brazil as well. And I think I always have this connection with agriculture as well, with my family. And the city I was living always had a lot of activities related to agriculture. My passion was more in the industry, manufacturing, and I had the privilege to be connecting the two passions of my life, that is working in manufacturing area, but in an agriculture company that it's Cargill. I think it's how I could describe my career. And I've been there, as you mentioned, since my beginning of my career, 18 years now.
And what kind of farm was it that you grew up on?
My father grew cattle.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but
Okay,
yeah,
wonderful.
yeah.
And Katya, if you would share, please.
I think I'm the only one that entered the agribusiness by accident.
No, me too.
Just was following the career in the finance and foreign trade area. And then I started working for a wheat milling group. So I understood what was the agri sector there when I started this job, because I'm from São Paulo, the concrete city. So far from the agri sector. But then when I started, I say, that's it. I mean, I don't see myself leaving the agri sector anymore.
But here you are.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you. So it gives us a good idea of where you're coming from and where your mindset is. So can you let's start off with I think the big picture and say what are some of the hurdles that you see for women that are specific to the Latin American region of the world?
I believe the first one is when you enter, you realize you are a minority. So you don't see many women in the agri sector. So for me, it was a shock when I started. When I look it around and say, well, I believe we are 1 and 2 out of 20 men in the room. So for me, it was kind of, wow, where I'm getting into. And of course, then you have to prove yourself that you can do it and prove others that you can do the same job a man is doing for the past, 20, 30 years, and that a woman can do it in a very efficient way. So I think that's the toughest part. But when you do that, then it's start getting easier, let's say.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and I would add to that, we see a kind of preference of people interviewing men for positions, especially when you have situations where, a certain position requires traveling to the countryside, in Brazil or Latin America countries as well. Sometimes leaders don't think that we can do it as women as well, so that's just an addition to what Katya said.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I agree totally. And I used to say this comment that Flavia did as part of, I call some of the external barriers, but I think we also have some of the hurdles I call internal barriers, and maybe not specifically to Latin America, but as women, we tend to limit ourselves as well. And it can be related to lower confidence, doubting that we are capable to do some jobs, or maybe doubting that we are able to conciliate our life, maternity, career, family. And I understand that this can be especially challenging in some jobs that doesn't have lots of flexibility. But I still see many women stepping back or stepping out without having a conversation at work or at home to try to accommodate their needs. And I think just assuming that they're not going to be able to manage everything or having opportunity to grow their careers. And sometimes it's happened even before starting a family. It's not uncommon to see women with lots of uncertainties about job security or career continuation, and several end up deciding to step out or not returning after their leaves. I think it's also a situation, as I said, maybe not specifically to Latin America, but it's very common to see.
And so, okay, so Eloisa, you're in a unique position in that you started your career in Brazil, and now with the same company, you've now moved to the United States. So when we speak about issues that are specific to this region, the things that you just mentioned, is it your position that that is specific to Latin America and you're seeing a difference in the United States, or would you say the things that you just mentioned span both locations?
I would say both locations, maybe in different degrees. I'm still learning the culture here, but I would say that happens here as well.
Okay.
In the US. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and Flavia, I wanted to go back to something that you said before about interviewing men. I want to make sure that I'm understanding. When you were talking about men being interviewed, do you mean the men are the candidates being interviewed for the most part, or are you meaning that it is when you apply for a job, it is men who interview you for a position mostly?
Well, I think both, because as we have more men in leadership positions, we see men more interviewing, but I was referring to candidates, especially when you have positions where requires traveling. They think women can't do it, we will have family obligations, or it's just hard to travel in the countryside of Brazil, especially because of the infrastructure we have today. So they think we can't do it. And I faced this situation in the beginning of my career at CHS, and that's why I'm mentioning here.
Gotcha.
And we see this being like a pattern, or
right. I mean, there is research
bias.
that shows that people tend to hire those like themselves, right? So if men are doing the hiring, they're more likely to find the traits that they feel are satisfactory in other men. So I think that alone skews the playing field as well. And I did want to say something to the audience. Feel free to type in your questions to me now or as they come, because I'll try to work. We don't have to have a question and answer at the end. If something I can work into what we're talking about, I will address it. So feel free to type in now if you like. What steps do we think the industry can take, either thinking long term or even short term, that would help clear a path for women's advancement?
I believe, Joyce, first is the self-conscious that we have a problem. We still need to work on inclusion in the agri sector. We are in the first step. I see maybe in Latin America. Of course, I cannot say that all the companies are the same. There are different companies doing different things, but I believe inclusion, we are in the first step. The first step is saying, okay, I give equal opportunities for everybody. But this is kind of compliance and law speech that we have to follow. I think we need to give a step further and try to understand inclusion, what's the benefits of it. If we don't understand that, it's going to be hard to do any different program or action without the knowledge that the benefits we have. So I believe the first step is knowledge. It's to teach this industry, okay, it's nice to have a woman. It's nice to have other type of minority groups. It's not just only women. We can start with from women, but let's see what's the benefits. Let's see the statistics. Let's understand it.
Right. And those things exist. I mean, there's so much research that shows that innovation is increased by the participation of women. Productivity is increased. So innovation, productivity, morale is increased by, and I don't necessarily think that women innately bring these things to a group. What I'm a believer of is diversity of thought, whether that's by background, cultural, gender, but diversity in general brings around these things. And the easiest right now to focus on would be the gender diversity.
Yeah, I agree. If you don't break that circle, that okay, it's easy, it's unconscious, we're gonna choose someone equal to us, if you don't break it with knowledge, it's going to be hard to advance. It's going to be very minor steps every year.
Right.
Yeah.
And so what advice would you give to women navigating the ag industry in Latin America specifically?
Yeah. And maybe if I can just add
sure.
to the last question and just answer with a story that maybe will shock some, but I think it's still some very fundamental things that we also need to address in our industry. I started my career in Cargill back in 2002 as an intern, and I was hired as a production engineer. And when I finished my chemical engineer degree, and I thought I was going to work on things like, energy balance, calculate reactors, pumps, things like that. And for my surprise, my first project at Cargill was to build a female bathroom. And actually, I had to split in half the male bathroom because we didn't have space to build a new one. And the area I was hired, and we didn't have this female bathroom, and I was also hiring other women to work as first women process operators. But 18 years ago, and now we are in 2021, and we are still talking about bathrooms, uniforms, breastfeed rooms in our plants. Yeah. And I'm sure it's not only in Cargill. And I think in my vision, the first thing the industry needs to address is to provide this minimal infrastructure and condition to welcome and include women in the workplace. As I said, it seems very odd, but it's real, and because we are not there yet. And if you don't do this right, I think we are just sending the message that women are not welcome to that company or that location. And it's very basic, but we are still talking about basic things, and we need to get there.
You're right. That is shocking, actually.
Yes, it is. It is real.
So oftentimes in my work, I'll hear, "Oh, we didn't hire women. We have a hard time finding where are they? Why don't they come out for our positions?" And I like to turn that question around to, well, what are you doing to attract them?
Yeah.
And not having a space for basic bodily functions would definitely be a check mark against what are you doing to attract women. So, all right, you win. You've won the storytelling contest.
I hope someday I can stop talking about my bathroom story, but we are not there yet.
But as you said, it's very sad. We're still discussing that today. We are 2021.
We're still spending time to talk about fundamental things. And imagine, how do you feel start in a plant? And of course, I'm talking about my area, that it's manufacturing industry, but it's not acceptable, right?
Yes.
Well, so moving on to the other question. Thank you for bringing us back to that, because I think that was a really salient point to what do we need to be doing to make difference. But what advice would you give to women who are looking to advance their career to the levels that you three are enjoying?
Well, in my case, I think we all agree on this, but we need to be very resilient and keep, being on the table, trying to be part of the discussions. I would say let's look for what are the main initiatives that the company are sponsoring right now, and let's try to get engaged. So we can be seen and we can be heard, right? And that's my advice to the group here.
I think we need to have the courage. I mean, I would say don't give up. Sometimes you might see as very difficult, but if there is a tiny little opportunity, get it. Don't give up. Look forward. Yes, as Flavia said, be resilient. Yes, but also drive your career. Look for opportunities, If
Yeah.
you see that in the company we're working today, there is no space to grow, then that's time to move. So let's find another one that is open for you. It's open to receive your talent. So I did this move at once in my career. I didn't see opportunity to say, okay, it's time to move. Very sad, but that's life. Let's move.
Eloisa,
Yeah,
do you have,
I
what
think,
advice would you
yeah,
give?
no, I think, yeah, very well said. Maybe just adding, I think for me, it's still very important to do the best in whatever you do today, right? And if you are lucky to work with great leaders that sponsors you, normally don't have to do too much more. But I think we just cannot rely and wait on others only. And instead, you have to self-advocate and build your brand and build a networking as well to make sure people know who you are and the great work you do. I think that's something I've been learning during my career as well.
Right.
And be authentic, don't try to fit to the patterns, because we know bringing your uniqueness will add a lot of value to the organization and to your team as well.
No, absolutely. Other things that I like to add to this conversation is, first of all, networking. I don't think, like women, we are very good at building relationships and connections, but we don't make it a part of our business strategy as much as we should. I mean, think about all of the business deals that are done on the golf course, right? That's their version of networking. Yeah. We have our own version of it. Like, Katya, I think I hit a nerve with you.
You can play golf as well.
Right. But, you know, we need to actively make connecting with new people a part of your career strategy. How many times have you heard about people getting jobs because they knew the right person? Or jobs being created because she's fantastic. We want her, we'll make something for her because we know her. And I think events like this, we do networking events that are just purely networking, but local ones, wherever you can find connecting with people on something common, a huge boost to figuring out a career path, or even just having people say, you know what you're good at, and maybe you don't realize you're good at this, you know, and that's happened to me a few times as well. So I believe in networking. I believe in, like Eloise, you said, like volunteering for an assignment. It's for an assignment sometimes, or taking that tough job that nobody wants and then crushing it.
Yes.
So then you are now like seen as the person who saves, you know, who has saved the day. So showing your worth for sure. I mean, I think there are some legitimate strategies that women can be putting in place that would help clear the path a little bit more.
I heard something. Sorry,
go ahead.
No, just on this topic, I heard something from a senior leader here recently that exactly on this topic, that she is not never did like this, maybe self network or going to the network, but she was always actively involved in so many things, and naturally she built a very strong network in her career. But I think sometimes we feel no, I'm not going to get a telephone and call to people and try to schedule meetings. Maybe it's not like this, but there are different ways, as you mentioned, to do this more naturally, and just get involved in different initiatives in your company, and this can happen as well.
Absolutely.
I will just add two things. One thing that Eloisa mentioned about always do your best no matter what. It helped me at some point of my career when I saw that I couldn't grow in the company I was. And one mentor told me that, said, you are okay to be mad. maybe the changes the company is doing is not going to be beneficial for you, but don't give them the right to say you're not doing a good job. Do a good job, continues doing a good job, and look to the market and find another company. Or you stay and wait for the next cycle because companies change. So I remember this advice I got, it was pretty important to me. And the second point was about the networking. So I'm more disciplined today with my network than I was before. So I try to call 2 or 3 people within my network during the week. So you can keep these contacts alive. So I think it's important to have this discipline to at least maintain your network.
Absolutely. I have a girlfriend. She's a very senior person in an ag industry position, and so she's in a different time zone, and she wakes up very early, and she has a 20-minute drive every morning to work, and she gets in her car, and she picks one person, and she calls them. Now, she called me, it was 7:30 in the morning, and I am not up at 7:30 in the morning. But when my phone has her name on it, I know to pick up. So I picked up and she said, I got 20 minutes. What's the problem? Let's solve a problem together. What's the problem you have? And from bed, I go, okay, I'm really struggling with this. And by the time she got to the office, she had an idea on how to help me, connected me to someone who could, and then I was off to solving my problem. And that's what she does with her morning commute.
Just laughing there because I used to do that. I mean, I'm in Sao Paulo, so the traffic jam is terrible. Of course, we are in pandemic season now, but I used to do that on my way to the work, and when I was finishing my work and going home. So people knew. I called and say, you are in the traffic. So yes, yeah.
Use that time, right?
Very important.
So Flavia, Katya mentioned, jumping companies. Do you have any benchmarks for when you, even if you haven't used them yourself, but you see for other people when it's time to leave?
Well, for me, it's exactly what Katya said. If we don't see that, we don't see any new opportunities for us, we feel that we are stuck. We feel there's no growing opportunities, even a lateral movement to another area, then I think it's time to leave, right? So if we are feeling that we are stuck and there's nothing else for us to do or to learn about, then let's move it. Let's look into the market and let's see what the opportunities are, right? And let's be open. Sometimes we just get used to what we are doing. We get accommodated, and we are not even open to listen to new opportunities, right? So.
Right. Eloise, I know you've had a long career with Cargill, so you might not want to talk to this, but would you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think not a lot on this topic. Of course, even in Cargill, I moved to different positions along my career, different business, and sometimes I think I feel the same as well. It's time to learn something different, to diversify my career. And of course, as I mentioned, I always work in Cargill, always in plant operations, but I work different business. I had to sometimes start by scratch and don't know the people. When I moved up here to North America, nobody knew me, and was a new start for me as well. And I think sometimes you need this new start in your career to challenge yourself, to develop some new capabilities, skills, and I think that's how I keep reinventing and keep learning. I think that's also I felt some of the signs in my journey as well.
Right. I think I would probably add to all of your very good points, where you are isn't in alignment with yourself as well. Whether or not you feeling like you're being held back from advancement by the company, when what they're working on or how they go about it, or just the nature of that business does not align with your core, I feel that's a really good sign to move on. And that I think also speaks to when I believe I can do more than they believe I can do.
Of course. Yeah.
That for me is like, okay, I feel like I have more to offer, and therefore I'm going to go into the world and let someone else take advantage of all that I.
Let's lie. Yeah.
Right. Just like dating, right? You know. um, so another thing that's really important, you know, while we're balancing our lives with our home, with our work, and we're trying to advance, right? We're a bunch of really ambitious women that want to take on more. The other thing that would really help us is if we could keep up to date on what's happening in the industry. And do any of you have tips on what you do to stay current on the news and the things that are really going to affect you from, you know, the rest of the world?
I believe besides doing the reading part of the agri sector, as we mentioned, network is also a source of information. So I use that a lot. You can get information that is not written in a magazine, on an article, or a news. So for me, besides the natural reading, for the sector is network again.
Do you have any sort of routine? Do you make that a routine, or do you you just end up working in it every day, or do you wake up and make that a part of your morning?
Yeah, it's a routine. I'm in the trading area, so it's natural that when I just wake up to read the news, I mean the main ones. So you need a lot of discipline to do that.
Right. Any other good tips for staying current? It's hard.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
besides of reading, I think getting close to areas like market research and even within your company, right? Let's try to get very close independently on the area we are today, to those areas that are providing, you know, information from our competitors or on the business itself. So that's a tip that I use quite a lot. You know, that's quite a very good source of information for me today. So.
Well, I had one more question before I'm going to turn to the ones that have come in from the audience. And so, by the way, audience, if you have them, start typing. But one of the things that I like to, when I have, you know, folks who have successful careers like yours, and an audience of folks who are hoping to get there, one of the things I like to point out is, you know, Beyonce only has 24 hours in a day, but that woman gets a lot done. And the reason I feel that she can is because she has help. And I also know that a lot of women struggle asking for help. And so I'd like to ask you to share with us what systems you have in place, what help systems you have in place that allow you to have such large and successful careers. So Katya, would you start?
Yes, I did a change recently because I said I have a lots on my plate. So I don't know why, maybe it's a cultural thing, against of having a secretary, but now I said I need it. I cannot handle myself. So that's the step I gave recently, to have a secretary at work to do, to take care of, I cannot say minor things, but very bureaucratical things that you don't need an expertise to do that, but it takes time. And also, of course, at home, I still need to clean the house and do laundry. And I also have someone that helps me.
Right. Again, valuing your time. Right. Absolutely. Louisa, would you share?
Sure. Yeah, I think I had, for sure, support at work from, I think, leaders that support me, some moments of my career that I had to do some accommodations, as I mentioned, some moments of my life. But I think I couldn't have grown my career without a support structure beyond the work as well. And in my case, especially, I had different systems in different phases of my life. In some moments, I counted with external childcare. Other times, with help at home. But I'm very fortunate to have a husband that was always very supportive. And every time I had a career transition or relocation, he was with me and helped me with childcare, and we shared household activities. And all the things sometimes temporary arrangements that we had to do to accommodate different phases of our careers. For example, recently my husband returned to work after 2 years, and we had to do new adjustments and we distribute some responsibilities at home. Things are a little messy now again, but we'll take some time and readjust again, but we'll survive. And I think that's life, right? And that's, I think, especially when you have a dual career, you need to recognize things will not be perfect, and you need to choose your battles.
Right. Absolutely. And Flavia.
Mhm.
Yeah, my situation is very similar to Eloisa's situation today. I'm a new mom, and I'm a first-time mom. Well, my baby is 4 months, but in the middle of everything, I was pregnant. We relocated to the US as well. So I counted a lot on my husband, and he has like a flexible job, and he can help me with household, with the baby. We also count on external support, but for sure the support that I have today from my husband is key and crucial, so I can keep the focus on the career.
Excellent. And I want to just make sure you all at home who are watching or hearing this, all of these women, in fact, I've done this panel 13 times, and every woman on every one of those panels has had help, every one of them. And we bring this up because if you want to advance your career, you want a senior position with a lot of responsibility, you cannot do it all. And yes, it's a matter of figuring out what you can pass off and what you can't. But there is something somewhere you can pass off. And figuring out what that is and how that works for your family, I think, is critical to advancement. And I just like to bring that up because I want to make sure everyone at home is hearing the message. Use and get help.
Absolutely.
So with that, I'm going to turn to some of the questions. And again, if we have time, we'll do some networking. It all depends on, how many of these we can get to. So one question that's come in is asking, do you feel that the struggles that you have now are the same as when you started, or is the environment for women better?
I can answer that. I believe it's much better today.
Yeah.
I think we are surfing in a new era, I would say. Many companies, many multinational companies, I think the board of directors realize that they have to do something to increase inclusion or human in the companies in senior positions. So it's coming to our benefit. So we need to take the advantage of it. I don't recall hearing that in the past, how important it was to have, for example, a woman in a board of directors. So the world is changing. It's changing in our benefit. So companies are realize that, of course, we cannot put all of them in the same place. Some companies are well ahead, others are in the beginning, but it's coming. The change is coming. I think we're going to have more opportunities now than we had 20 years ago. So yeah, I see a big difference today.
Yeah, all right. I totally agree. Yeah.
Yeah. Nothing to add. Very well said, Katja. Mm-hmm. Much more commitment from organizations, and of course, I think it's still very important to have what I used to say bottom up movements, for example, like this women networks. I think in both ways we can get more awareness in each level of the organization. But I think without a strong commitment from senior leaderships and boards, I think we cannot get there. But for sure, it's totally different from 18 years ago when we started, and even maybe 5-10 years ago, we haven't had these conversations before, right?
Right. Great. Well, it's good to know that all three of you feel like it's getting better. So
yeah,
there's something to be said for that. And so there's another question is, do you feel your human resources departments are taking initiative to actively work towards diversity?
Yes, I can say the company I work for, yes. We have this, let's say, challenge in front of us. So we are working a lot on inclusion and diversity. But of course, when I say we are much better today than before, it doesn't mean we are okay. We still have a long way to go. But at least it's open to discussion. So that's important. So yes, and I've been working with particular in the area I work for with the HR department to see what else we can do. How can we put some speed on this process?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think in Cargill there are a lot of things ongoing. Inclusion, diversity, and equity. Now that's also part of the policies and practices. Things like unbiased hiring processes, targets to close gender gaps. Many or all leaders on the organization are going through unconscious bias training as well, especially, how important it is to have this for leaders in charge of hiring and promoting decisions. And maybe one area that I think we still have opportunities, it's about rethinking work in terms of flexible work arrangements. I think if you want to attract and retain talent, and not talking only to men, to women, but to men as well, we need to be creative and reinvent work. And I think we proved this with the pandemic. When I look especially to my area, that it's you have traditional jobs in plant operations, and we proved that we can do this different. Of course, no, not all the jobs. We cannot do all the jobs remotely, but we proved that we could do different. And I think this should enable us to get more women advancing their careers in ops and in the agriculture industry.
Gotcha. So looks like there are enough questions coming in that we probably will not get to the networking. So I'm going to go through some of these questions because I think this is the more important way to spend the time. So a question has come in. How do you think we can have more men as allies to change to that, so that we have more women in leadership? Any thoughts around that topic?
Well, I think I have one experience at CHS where when some women leaders started the movement on women in leadership, then suddenly some men actually came and said, well, I would want to be part of that. And we said, of course, because, we want you to be part of the discussions we have. You want you to be aware of what's going on. And it was a great movement, because instead of having just, those councils with only women on it, we need to involve them, and they need to see what we are concerned about, what are the worries, the statistics, the numbers. So we need to invite them at least,
Yeah.
And maybe
I agree. I can share my own experience. So I'm bringing to the table all these discussions. Okay. statistics. When we face a problem, I try to show there are 2 points of view. How I see a problem as a woman, how a man see the same problem is different. So if you don't bring those discussions to the table, you don't realize how different we are. So it's creating awareness. If you don't do it, it's going to be hard, because sometimes I feel most men, they say, no, no, this is woman talk. No, it's not. It's everybody's talk. If you have a daughter, you need to understand that, because you have a daughter, you're going to need to help her. So come on board and let's learn together. So that's how we are. I'm trying to create this inclusion and bring everybody on the table to create awareness. That's the first step.
Yeah, and some examples of how to do this. We have been inviting leaders, men for being sponsoring some of these women committees or resource groups. Before, as Flavia said, was maybe very limited to women. And for them, the beginning it's uncomfortable, something new for them, but I think it has been really reinforcing their commitment to change things and engaging other men leaders in their areas as well. And there are, I think, other different ways, but I think that's one example that has been proven very, very effective as well. We need to bring them to the table and to the conversation.
And Eloisa, we could take your story maybe and turn it on its head and bring them to a space where there's no men's room and see how quickly they understand the problem.
Good idea. That's a good idea.
Sorry, I couldn't help myself. It was just a great place to put that.
That's true.
And so we have a question here, and it's funny because it seemed to me to be a question. I was like, really, this is an issue, but maybe this is where I'm out of touch. It says, someone wants to know, does your companies allow you to go network at trade shows? And my first reaction was, well, of course they should, but maybe that's not as common as I think.
I couldn't get to network where? Sorry?
Like, does your company allow you to go network at trade shows?
Trade shows?
Yeah, trade shows, yes.
Trade shows, sorry.
So it's a budget question. Do they make budget for you to go do these things?
Yes.
I do the budgets. So we go.
Right.
No, but I don't see it's as a big issue. Even companies that the decision was not up to me. Yes, we had budgets for trade shows.
Yeah.
And so you think if somebody's not having that opportunity, that maybe they're not at the right company?
Yeah, it sounds strange.
It feels.
Yeah,
Right.
but I don't know. It might happen if someone is asking, but
Sure.
yeah.
So someone is
So
asking.
examples. So our examples. There we go.
Right. Let's go. Women in Ag. There's your first one.
Yeah.
Come network with us. Someone would like to know, do you think that people get bothered when there is a woman in charge? That obviously men get bothered, or actually I guess it would be women as well when there is a woman in charge. Has that been an experience for any of you?
Yes, but
maybe we don't care.
It happens, but
we should
happens,
not care.
As Flavia said, I don't care, but just kidding. It happens, but I think it's a reaction at the beginning, because when you after months you see that it's the same thing. And I had case that I became the boss and some guy didn't like it, but at the end they say, whoa, this person realized I was being very stupid, because there is no big issue. You were competent, you know what you were doing. So I don't know why I had this barrier. So yeah, I was glad to hear that once. So
okay,
let's move.
Someone is really interested in hearing that if you find a lot of your suppliers are diverse as well. Are you seeing the companies that you're working with have female representatives?
I'll tell the area I am is trading. So still not. It's hard to see a woman as a trader. Again, as I said before, I see more women than 10 years ago, but it's still the majority and is men. And depend on the culture. There are cultures that it's hard to see a woman in senior positions. So a majority of our suppliers are multinational companies from all over the world. So sometimes you feel that the culture of the country plays the role, and they are not that open for a woman in trading, in the trading area.
Right. Well, Flavia, Eloise, I would assume that you have more service providers and vendors perhaps than Katia is working with at this point. Are you finding that they have the companies you're working with seem to be working on diversity as well?
I think it's progressing, but however, I would say that we are still in the beginning phase of with our suppliers, especially when we talk about transportation companies, supply chain. We don't see a lot of women yet, but we are progressing. If we compare today to many years ago, we are much better than we were, but I'm not sure exactly how they are working on that, but we see a little bit more women today than in the past.
Right. Well, and I know, Eloise, I'm going to tell, right, not to answer for you, but I know that, Cargill, I work with your supplier diversity officer. So I know that you have specifically Cargill's made a point of saying we're going to try and do business with, diverse providers, but are you seeing the results of that in your day-to-day?
Yeah, I cannot speak too much about results yet, but I know we are trying to influence and get, of course, in the supply chain, more diverse suppliers. But I, to be honest, I don't have access to the results and how we are compared to the past. But I agree with Flavia in general. My perception that we are better, but don't have access to data and results yet.
Gotcha. I probably have time for maybe one or two more questions. Again, we're not going to get to the networking, but what we should probably do maybe is have a specific networking event for this group so that we can just skip right to meeting each other. There was a question here, and there's so many coming in, so I want to make sure I scroll to get it. Are you finding that women are still seeking, and we touched on this in the beginning a little bit, choosing agribusiness? I know we talked about, are there as many women in ag, and why you went to it for your career? Are you seeing the rate of women choosing ag as a career increasing, decreasing, staying steady?
I see that increasing. I think everybody's, of course, there's a lot of groups and Instagram people publishing the good things about the agribusiness sector. So in Brazil, I think we are in the spotlight and it brings attention. So I see more interest in the agri sector as a whole. But yes, I see more women coming when you are trying to hire someone in like an intern or a trainee. I see more candidates, women candidates than before.
Yeah, and I think we are seeing these trends happening at universities as well. I was talking to a friend back in Brazil, and she was telling me that today 50% of the new students at Exalc, that's I think the most traditional agriculture how do I translate
Cool.
this?
University.
Yeah.
University.
Yeah. College actually it's now filled by women, which was not the case in the past, and I assume they are going to be looking for opportunities in the agriculture industry, and this didn't happen by overnight, right? And we when we talk about manufacturing as well, we always talk about this, how we can get the same representation. It's unrealistic to try to get, for example, 50% of the maintenance positions as women if you only have like one woman graduating as a mechanical engineer per year in a class of 50. But I think this is changing also for engineering. We have more women at STEM, and naturally this is going to translate in more women entering in agriculture, especially talking about this university that I heard from Brazil.
Gotcha. I'm going to try and squeeze two questions in because I think they're both quick. Someone wants to know if you listen to podcasts, and if you do, are there any you recommend?
I still prefer reading. I think I'm old school.
I'm a podcaster, but I listen to fun things. I don't listen to work things.
Yeah, me too. That's what I was going to say. So
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's okay. We can't help on every front.
Yeah.
And then I guess we'll wrap up with this last question. It is specific to Katya. Someone would like to know, what is your advice to get into the trading department and to become a trader in the future?
Study and don't give up.
Right.
It's, as I said, it's still hard for a woman to get into, but it's not difficult as it was before. So if you study and if you prepare yourself, you're gonna find opportunity. Not only in Brazil, but I think other countries in Latin America. The food market, the agri market is growing. So there's a bunch of opportunities. So don't give up, study, prepare yourself, and you're going to get it.
Fantastic.
But make sure that's the career you choose, because usually when I was interviewing anyone wanting to be a trader, I would ask why you want to be a trader. Majority could not answer the question. They only could answer, because you do a lot of money. No, that's not it. This is, you are seeing only good things. So if you do everything right, you might win some money, but not all the time you do things right. So, so they don't know why they want to be a trader. So you need to understand the career first before deciding, okay, I want to be a trader. So why? Answer that question first. And if you say, okay, I know what a trader does, I know what is to be a trader, so let me study and be prepared for it.
Right. That's an excellent answer. Thank you. And any last thoughts while we wrap up? If we have an audience of people here all eager to have careers like yours. Any last thing?
Just believe in yourself and don't be too hard on yourself as well.
Absolutely.
And connect with other women and try to, if you are in a leadership position right now, try to mentor other women as well. Try to take advantage of the position you are and promote this. So we together we are stronger, and that's my advice. So
I would say believe in yourself, apply for positions. Don't think you're not good enough. I think it's something that we carry, I don't know from where, from our moms or the old, from the past, that I'm not good enough. No, you are. Apply, take the risk, take the chance. Don't think you're not ready. A man is doing that. When you read a position, if you fit in, I don't know, 60%, in your mind, because usually we are very hard on us. As Eloisa said, we need to be gentle with us. So if you fit 60%, try, take the chance, take the risk.
Absolutely. I like to say that nobody knows what they're doing and we're all just faking it. So come in and fake it with us.
Good. That's a good one.
So that's the time that we have for this. Ladies, thank you so very much for your time and for sharing your stories and expertise with us. We're just grateful for you.
Thank you.
Thank you
It's a
very much.
pleasure.
And to everyone watching at home, thank you for your time. We will continue to provide content specific to Latin America. Women in Agribusiness is celebrating its 10th anniversary this year, and we are definitely reaching out to different parts of the world to help bring everyone into our community of really fantastic women here to help each other. So again, we ask you to subscribe to our newsletter so that you understand when events like this and others are happening. And I hope to see you again at the next Women in Agribusiness webinar. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.